Afternoon. Welcome to the first day of Cambridge Days 2021, and thank you for joining us. I hope everyone is safe and healthy wherever they are. I can see some people are joining, so let's wait for another minute before we start. In the meantime, may I ask everyone to write where they are joining from? Hello, I can see Kayseri, Bursa, hello, Karaman, Istanbul. It's beautiful weather in Istanbul. I don't know how it is where you are. Eskişehir, I can see it's going fast. You can hardly read them. Right, it's everywhere from Turkey. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, everyone. Just a few more seconds before we start. Tokat, Kocaeli, Antakya, Istanbul, Tekirdağ, Spain. Hello. Thank you for joining. So let's start. Hello again, and welcome to the first day of Cambridge Days 2021. Thank you for joining us. This is Ülkem Karacabakli from Cambridge Assessment English, and I'm happy to welcome you all to the 2 days of exciting sessions by our ELT and assessment experts. Before we start our sessions, I'd like to use this opportunity to announce a major recent development at Cambridge. The University of Cambridge has decided to bring together its publishing and assessment operations by both Cambridge University Press and Cambridge Assessment to create a single organization. Educational institutions, teachers, and learners already see us simply as Cambridge, so joining the two organizations is a natural next step forward. Our teams are very excited about bringing together our strengths and capabilities and looking forward to contributing to society more effectively and more powerfully than ever. Cambridge University Press and Cambridge Assessment are currently working together to create the new unified organization for launch on 1st of August 2021. If you'd like to know more about this development, please visit our website on cambridgeenglish.org. Now, back to today's agenda. Today we have 3 sessions powered by Cambridge Assessment English. Each session will take 1 hour, and in the last 10 minutes of the sessions, our speakers will be taking questions. So please use the Q&A box for your questions, and we will try to answer as many as we can in the time. Tomorrow we will have 3 more sessions powered by Cambridge University Press. Please don't forget to register separately for tomorrow's sessions if you have not already done so. All sessions will be recorded, and recording links will be sent to you after the conference, along with your certificate of attendance. Now, let's move on to today's first session. Let Art and Music Spice Up Your Lessons by Sinem Darıdere. Sinem is an educational consultant and the teacher trainer for the Cambridge CELT-P, CELT-S, and CELTA Awards. She is the digital coordinator for the Young Learners and Teenagers Special Interest Group of the IA TEFL. Sinem is also a psychodramatist and applies psychodrama to ELT. Welcome, Sinem. The floor is now yours.
Hello, everyone. Hello, wonderful. Great day, great people. Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. I'm really delightful to be here with you today. And thank you, Cambridge Assessment English, for organizing this. All right, so yes, let art and music spice up our lessons. So today, We're going to focus on some activities to spice up your lessons. I do hope you and your learners will benefit from them with their underlying theories, and I hope your learners will acquire language in enjoyable and fulfilling ways. Are you ready for the magical world of art and music? I can hear your yeses, so thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to start with two of my favorite quotes, Picasso and Plato. Every child is an artist, and the patterns in music and all the arts are the keys to learning. Well, I guess we all agree with these. And art and music, they're everywhere, so we can use them when we teach. All right, we all know and believe that each age range of young learners has its own specific requirements, considering teaching methodology, course structure, materials, learning environment. So we always need to remember age-appropriate pedagogy. Children's motivation for English, it's key to success. Art and music can catch our learners' curiosity and keep them engaged and motivated to learn. Art stimulates visual meaning. So it's a kind of sleeping giant waiting to provoke language. So art stimulates visual meaning, and visual meaning can stimulate description or provoke comment. This language can then be worked on. And music and songs, lots of positive associations. So positive associations, our musical interests are usually emotionally loaded. What we're doing here is in search, not input. So we ask our students to use their feelings, experiences, thoughts stimulated by music as materials for our teaching. Exploiting these in the classroom can make our teaching more effective. Okay, well, we really need to rediscover and inhabit the world of the child. Well, yes, in their words, there are no tenses, no nouns, no adjectives, but there is creativity, there is playfulness, there are monsters, right? And we can make learning more interactive, more fun, and more effective. Okay, to summarize, here we have this marvelous trio, art, music, and language learning. And when spicing up our lessons with art and music, here I'd like you to remember those keywords. Okay, motivating, experiences, thoughts, feelings. So our learners will have the willingness to communicate. Authentic, pieces of art and music, they're authentic materials. They weren't originally developed for teaching purposes. So we can bring more of the real world to our classrooms. Memorable, using art and music can give us opportunities to create lessons that will live long in our learners' memories. Imaginative, our learners can use their imaginations. They can invent characters, games, stories that help them express their feelings and their words. Enjoyable, with a high degree of positive emotions, learners would be more open to receiving and engaging with input. Using art and music can reduce potential stress and minimize the challenges of learning. Negative emotions and discomfort can limit their ability to store and retrieve language from memory. Language learning skills. So practice. Well, almost always brings more improvement, and more practice brings more improvement. Practicing language, grammar, vocabulary, or skills, reading, listening, speaking, writing, we can incorporate playful, personalized practice. By using pieces of art, we can prepare, we can set tasks considering the aim of that lesson or maybe that stage and shape our lessons around it. Or simply, rather than using a visual from a website or a course book, we can spice up our lessons and use paintings. Or we can draw and get our learners to draw. We can use songs just to calm down our students when needed. We can use songs that students can hear the language, vocabulary, lexical chunks, sets. Rhythm and repetition help learners retain new language. And rhythm and melody, they're great for intonation. And we can use songs, and when we use that songs, we can convey the meaning with movements. So TPR is there. Creativity. Art and music boost our learners' creativity. They can see their own products and creative work in the classroom, and this can lead to real communication. And encouraging. We can set tasks. Students can work together, and we can encourage them to use English in our classrooms and to enhance learning. All right, so let's explore the magical world of art and music. I'm going to demonstrate, share some activities I use to spice up my lessons by using art and music. All right, let's start with art. My first activity is called Name It. Now, I'm going to show you some paintings. They have numbers from 1 to 5. Have a look at them and try to guess their names. The titles, I mean the initial names of those paintings. You can take some notes, but when you have a look at the paintings, don't use the chat box yet. I will tell you. So for the time being, just have a look at the paintings, take some notes and try to guess the name of the paintings. Ready? So let's go with the first one. Here is the first one. Okay. Again, don't use the chat box yet. Just take some notes. Okay, this is my number 1. Okay, here we go. Number 2. This is a bit easy, huh? Okay. And here comes number 3. Don't forget to take some notes. And ready for number 4. This is number 4. And this is the last one, number 5. Maybe you know this one. Okay, now let's have a look at them together. Now it's time for you to use the chat box and write down your guesses. Okay, the first one. What do you think is the name of this painting? Use the chat box, put it there. Let me see. Okay, swan, yeah, definitely there's a swan there. But some other birds as well. Oh yeah, I can see birds. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, definitely something related to ducks and birds. Okay, are you ready for the answer? Here we go. It is birds in a garden. Very close. Okay, what about the second one? Okay, so what about this one? Use the chat box. Okay, Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa will be with us, don't worry. Okay. Woo, lots of nice ideas. Here we go. That is the original one. Girl in a blue dress. All right. What about Lady in Blue? Yeah, that's nice. What about this one? This is also, yeah, we can get it, right? What about this one, right? Put it in, yeah, dance, dance, dance. That's very good. Okay, very, very good. Here we go, the dance, wonderful. Okay, number four. This is also a bit like, okay. Okay, yes. Yeah, very good, very good. Mother and child, wonderful. And the very last one, maybe you know this. This is Monet's and it's famous. So let me see. Ooh, lots of answers. Yeah, I can see that one. Water lilies, correct. Okay, here we go. Water lilies, wonderful. Lots of good ideas. Okay, so this activity, this can be a warmer or a follow-up activity, or just for you to set the context. You can just extend the language using vocabulary, chunks, adjectives. You can, again, always extend the activity by getting your learners to describe the paintings. You can scaffold the learning and provide your learners with some useful language items. So there are, present continuous, prepositions of place, lots and lots of room for your creative ideas. And you can pick and choose like the paintings that you like to use for your lessons. All right, now, my second activity, here we go. It's, let me tell you something. Okay, someone was talking about Mona Lisa. So here we have Mona Lisa. And here we have, yes, you know, she is the, yes, I can see her as this girl with the pearl earring. Okay, now you are story designers. And everyone's story is going to start in the same way. Here is the situation. Mona Lisa is on one side of a bridge and girl with pearl earring is on the other. They want to get to the other side and they start crossing the bridge at the same time and they meet in the middle. Here is the problem. The bridge is too narrow, so they can't pass each other. Mona Lisa can't get past girl with a pearl earring, and girl with a pearl earring can't get past Mona Lisa. The result is they're angry, furious. They have an argument and they demand that the other turns back, but they're both too stubborn, so they're just stuck. Now, this is the story, this is the situation, and there's a problem. Remember that you're all story designers. Your learners are all story designers. Now, your learners can make a rough sketch of the scene, the situation. You can put your learners in teams and they can write a story, which begins with Mona Lisa and girl with a pearl earring situation on the bridge. They can share ideas. They can also make more sketches. So it can be a kind of story with pictures. Here, two more characters, Van Gogh and Thomas. So they are good friends and they're at a cafe, but they're not happy. There is a problem. Well, you can support your learners with some ideas, maybe table, food, drinks, maybe other customers. You can model the task, then you can put them in pairs, small groups, and they can role play. If you want to, let's say, shape this activity around a specific language focus, you may want to set the situation according to that. Well, I mean, again, rather than using visuals from your coursebook, you can use those paintings, those characters from different paintings. You get the idea. Okay, my third activity here is a no, but actually it's a yes. Okay, well, many of us and our learners, we feel we can't draw, but no. Good news, you can. If I can, then you can. Once I wanted to teach octopus, and I was so enthusiastic and I wanted to draw it on the board. And I tried to draw it and I tried to elicit, and my students were like, oh, plane. Well, I wanted to draw an octopus. So I'm improving. So this is my very first sketch of a cat, but I'm improving, I'm learning. So here is one of my assistants. So you can use those books to improve your drawings and you can help your learners. Okay, now, let me stop sharing my screen for a while. Okay, let's try. Find a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. We're going to give it a try. Where is my whiteboard? Okay. I guess you are ready. Okay, just try to follow me. Okay, let's start with a nose. Eyes. Now here, a big, nice smile. And over here, a big ear. Maybe some spiky hair. Next, put your pens left to the mouth and a line like this. And under the ear, like this. Top of the t-shirt. Here we go. And we can call him, you name it. Okay, this is the first one. What about another one? Ready, your pens and papers. Okay, here we go. This time, let's change the eyes. 2 circles, 2 dots. Here comes the nose. Let's change the mouth this time. Okay. Ear. And some curly hair. Here we go. This time a V-shaped t-shirt, let's say. Can you see the t-shirt? Yes. Easy and yeah, maybe some mustache, definitely. Easy and nice. All right. So even this process itself has its language learning skills, body parts, imperatives. Your learners can create characters and build their own creative worlds. Okay. Now, my museum, this is gonna be my number 4. Okay, now, here the idea is you can show different paintings from different painters. You can imitate, your learners can imitate or draw, or they can even prepare their own pieces of art and create their museums. So here is an example. This is my museum. Yes, my version of Starry Nights and flowers. And please be quiet. And my version of fruit salad and my version of abstract art. And you're about to leave my museum. So thank you for visiting. Okay, so even when teaching online, They can show it through their webcams and talk about their museums. A meaningful, communicative, and personalized speaking task. Well, you can always exploit these materials and prepare your tasks, lessons, according to your learners' needs. These are just some ideas to demonstrate how we can use art to spice up your lessons. Okay, now let's carry on. And here comes the music, the magical world of music. Okay, this activity is a kind of combination of art and music. So your learners can draw their favorites. Let me show it to you here. Yes, they can draw their favorite meals, and depending again on your aim, time, number of your learners, you can focus on 1 or 2 items. And when they draw, you can play a piece of music. It's good to calm them down, maybe for a while. So, okay, let's give it a try. Let's draw your favorite sandwich. Oh, I would like to see your sandwiches, but you get the idea. So just a bit piece of music, just nice and easy. And then they can draw their favorite sandwiches, dinner, or you decide, again, depending on your aim, time, number of learners, whatsoever. All right, now, and the linguistic purpose, it's also clear, like love, then they can show their favorite meals and they can exchange information. It's again, really communicative speaking activity, like, love, dislike, do you, I don't. So different linguistic purposes here. All right, here, the second activity with music is My Street. Okay, this is an activity from Cambridge CELT-P course, and I spice it up with some music. So this is from a course book, and you all know how to use it like this. But what if we do it like this? Now, close your eyes. Close your eyes and imagine that you're in a basket flying over the street where you live. What can you see? What buildings can you see? What are they like? Can you see people? Who? What are they wearing? Can you see animals? Now you can open your eyes and write words related to the scene that you imagined. Okay, now, you can say it's time to share and your students can talk together. Linguistic purpose is clear. Vocabulary, speaking, describing things. This activity also develops imagination, creativity, and relates the topic to your learners' own lives. Personalized, and music feeds their imagination. Here, be careful with your choice of music though. Well, you don't want to have a rap song here. Just pick and choose the appropriate one, I would say. Okay, now, guess the animal. Okay, this is one of my favorite activities, I can say. So I love using picture books. And when I teach marvelous, authentic materials, clear context for language and authentic language exposure, colorful illustrations. So I'm going to demonstrate one of the ways I use music to spice up my use of picture books. Here is, this is almost a brand new, lovely picture book from Dan Brown. Here you can have a look at it closely. And Wild Symphony, illustrated by Susan Batory. It's about a wild adventure with Maestro. Here is the Maestro Mouse, and his musical friends. Well, just a bit of information for you here. Music is also composed by Dan Brown, and the orchestral movements reveal a funny or an interesting side of an animal's personality. So when you listen carefully, you might be able to find the animal hiding in music. All right, so let's listen to the song and guess the animal. Listen to the song and try to guess the animal. You can use the chat box if you just remember the name of that animal. Here we go. Okay, loads and loads of nice answers, but I can't, if I haven't missed it, I couldn't see the correct answer. So let me read it to you. As the sunrise starts to glow, woodland birds say hello. Honking, hooting, chirping, peeping, squawking, tweeting, cooing, cheeping. It's so noisy, all those birds. A jumbled rush of birdly words. But if you pause for not so long, you'll hear each bird's own special song. Okay, so it was woodland, it was the birds, but lots of nice ideas, lots of nice guesses, wonderful. And to be honest, when you read the book, yes, you're right, all of the animals are here and they're just, they just come up with a great wild symphony. Okay, so, this is again one of the ways how I spice my use of picture books with my learners. PEPALT 21 is an amazing team, and you can have a look at their teams. You can have a look at their websites and learn more about picture books in primary English language teaching. All right. So now let's have a look at this activity. This is gonna be my last activity. Yeah, let me put the website that I'm in, like the team, before I forget. It's Pepelt21. You can just Google it. All right, so my last activity is a song. Okay, it's about family. So to teach family members activities, adjectives, feelings, we can like spice up this song by using some props, realia, TPR, body movements to convey the meaning of some of the words and to make our learners more energetic and lively. So I have some props here. So in the song, we're going to hear football. So I have this ball, shoes, it's right over here, shoes. And we have this adjective, smile, happy. So we can just use our gestures. And what else do I have? What I'm missing? So yeah, hair. So hair is also easy. So you can use realia, you can use your body, and you can make the song like your learners can feel energetic and lively. And you can turn your lessons into a memorable one. Now, let's give it a try. Let's do it together. It's an easy one, don't worry. It's all about the family members. And I will be here singing it for you. And I do appreciate if you please come and sing along with me. Okay, so come on. We cannot like sing without dancing, and we cannot dance when we sit. So stand up, everyone. Yes, I can see you. Some of you are still sitting. So stand up, everyone. And sing along with me. Are you ready?
Unit 2,
Here we
page
go.
10, 2 and 3. Listen and sing. Do the actions.
Yes, let's do them all together. My grandparents are happy. How about you? How about you? People who are happy. Stand up and say woohoo. Woohoo, 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 woohoo. Come on. My uncle's wearing shoes. How about you? How about you? People wearing shoes. Stand up and say woohoo. Woohoo, 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 woohoo. Now it's the hair. My aunt's got long hair. How about you? How about you? People's with long hair. Stand up and say woohoo. My cousin likes football. How about you? How about you? People who like football. Stand up and say woohoo. Parents love their families. How about you? How about you? People who love their families. Stand up and say woohoo. Woohoo! Okay. I wish I could see you, but yeah, I can I can feel it. So props, realia, body movements have conveyed meaning, and it's like teaching family members. Maybe they know, maybe a bit of revision. So you can also prepare listening tasks, and you can set some follow-up activities. Maybe they can draw their families, exchange information, ask questions. So a personalized, meaningful, and child-friendly activity, and a positive message. All right, so here are my references. I know that you'll be receiving the video, so you can have a look at it. And thank you very much. I just have a lot of fun, and I hope you do too. So I do hope and believe you will start spicing up your lessons with some art and music. So one more time, welcome to the magical world of art and music.
Thank you, Sina. It was great.
Thank you.
Session. I think everyone was up and dancing.
I do hope so.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We did receive quite a few questions.
Okay, let's
so we just start reading them for you.
Do you want to pick and choose?
I can read some of them if you want. I'll start from the very first one. According to the authentic learning process, can we mention about the common rubrics for art and music, like applied skills, created product, or research application? This is from Eileen.
Common rubrics. I mean, depending, again, this is again just to spice up your lessons with art and music. Of course, you can just come up with a kind of rubric. You can just use it according to that. But again, this is just to spice up your lessons with art and music. They are definitely authentic materials, and they just bring the real world into our classrooms. And again, my belief behind it, just rather than using some coursebook materials maybe, or visuals from random websites, we can show those examples. So our learners, it's a bit of learning, I mean, teaching culture at the same time. So it's just, again, to spice up your lessons.
Thank you. The next question is from Sevinch. I just wonder why we use Mona Lisa and go with a pearl earring, but make up an unrelated story of our own.
Well, you know, like wacky stories, because remember, students, they have their own worlds, super imaginative, creative. It was just a story that I came up with last night. So you can come up with your own stories. And the more wacky it is, the more memorable they are. So I just try to make it like a bit wacky. That was my point. So, I mean, in real life, that would never happen. But when they use their imagination, again, they can be more creative.
Thank you. So the next question is from Oskan Daria, and may you share some playlists with us to use in the lessons?
Oh, okay. So you're going to find the links. They're on my references. They're all from, I would say, YouTube, so you can have a look at them. And again, when I use songs, I try to use, I mean, again, for the aim of that activity, but I try to pick and choose the right song. So we were talking about this. So when there is a bit of imagination, maybe you just need a bit of instrumental music, so just to calm them down. But maybe it's like your taste. So I'm like, I love some of these pieces of music, but yeah, they're all on my references. They can have a look at them.
Thank you. And there's one question from Cengiz. How do we use these joyful activities in large groups?
Well, I remember using these activities with like really 20, 25, 30 students. So again, you cannot do it always. It's impossible to take your learners under control. But again, the idea, the belief behind is just to spice up your lessons. Maybe time to time, maybe when you start, or maybe just on a Friday before you say goodbye. I know it's difficult when dealing with large groups, but again, just a bit of taste for them to get motivated.
Thank you. The next question is, what sort of authentic materials should we bring to our classes, especially for young learners?
I mean, again, I wouldn't say there is a should or must or have to, but you just, as long as it's age appropriate, you can pick and choose the right material. But yes, the concept, they need to be child friendly, they need to be age appropriate. If so, you can use any kind of authentic material. Again, the key word is age appropriacy and child friendly.
Thank you. The next question is from Alara. How can we find the kind of music for the scope of students' imagination?
Well, listen and listen and listen more. So that's how I do. So sometimes I listen to something and I was like, oh, this is a nice one. I can use it when I teach. So this is how I do it. So maybe you can listen, and it's just a bit of more awareness for you now. So from now on, you're going to be more aware of the music around you. So whenever you hear something, you'll be like, can I use it when I teach?
Thank you, Sina.
But yeah, maybe one day I can create a kind of playlist so everyone can add, share. So that is a good idea. Sorry, Ülke.
Thank you. There are lots of questions about the names of the books that you shared and the links.
Everything is on the references. You're going to find them there. Everything is there.
Yes, we will be sharing the slides with the participants. Okay, how can we, one second, the questions are very fast.
Yeah.
Art is an abstract for the child, so how can we internalize for them?
Can you read which, okay, art is an abstract. Okay, again, we're not teaching art. Again, that's a complete different story. We don't really want them to internalize art. It's again the belief, my idea behind is just to spice up your lessons. Let's say when they draw their, where's my museum? So right over here somewhere, I lost it, I just throw it away. So when they come up with their own museums and when they just imitate that Starry Nights, they're just going to get the idea of that painting, and that is it. And they can, again, it's going to be their own work, own creativity, and they will have that willingness to speak. And again, we're also teaching that implicit background knowledge at the same time.
Thank you. There's one question from Sinai Barish. Can we use paintings for units such as animals, personalities, and so on?
Yes, just pick and choose. Just pick and choose the right ones for your theme, context, lesson aim, learners' interests. Loads and lots of room open for our creativity as well.
Thank you. And there's one question from Yavuz. What age group is the story design activity for?
This Mona Lisa one.
I guess
probably, yeah. I mean, again, it was a bit more for you. I graded the language for you. You can still simplify the language, but you can use it for upper primary, maybe lower secondary. So again, if you grade your language and you don't really necessarily need to use my story, it's just an idea. And I just wanted to come up with a kind of example, a wacky one for you, but again, you can use it. I mean, as long as you grade the language, grade the storytelling, you can use it for different age groups. Again, age appropriacy and child friendly. These are the keywords.
Thank you. There's another question from Tuğçe. Are there any sample apps based on music and art so that we can get help to use in our lessons?
You mean applications? There are some, I mean, there are some, I would say, lots of YouTube videos, and there is also one. So the one that I use for my drawing, it's there on the last slide. And what I do, I mean, like when I go to a bookshop, I look around and I try to find some books that I can improve my drawing. And I use a kind of application on my iPad, but I mean, it's Procast, but it's a bit like just for me to have fun when drawing. So I go with pen and paper. I'm still a bit old school.
Thank you. There's one from Burak. Should we do some rehearsals before the lesson, especially with the students?
Not necessarily. I mean, why? I mean, this can be a kind of, I would say, end of year show. Maybe you can prepare something, then it's fine. You can just prepare it according to that. But no, just enjoy and get them, and they enjoy, they have fun too. It's not that serious. It's just for fun. And again, to spice up our lessons with some art and music.
Thank you. That's an interesting question. How do we contribute the silent students, the quiet ones, I think?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I would say maybe for the first time, it would be a bit difficult, but it's a kind of, I mean, singing and dancing is a group activity. So students will feel a part of that group. And I'm sure maybe not for the first time, but gradually they will be there singing and dancing with the others, because there is no room to feel shy, because everyone would be dancing and no one will be looking around. They will just be focusing on the dancing and singing. So maybe gradually, but yes, I'm sure, because singing and dancing, again, it's a social activity and learners will feel that being part of a group.
Thank you. There's another question on the length of the lessons. How can we manage the time in 30, 40 minutes lesson with those kind of creative activities?
Again, this can be a warm-up, a follow-up activity. So you cannot just do this for 35 minutes. No, it's just like some bits and pieces for different stages of your lesson. So you just need to pick and choose. So again, it can be a warmer, it can be a lead-in. Maybe you just set the context and then put it aside. Or maybe you just set a follow-up task and then you can say goodbye to your learners. So again, depending on your plan, your lesson aims, your activities, you just fit it in somewhere in your plans.
Thank you. There's one question from Arzu. What is your suggestion for using long song lyrics with young adult learners?
Well, yes, that's also a good question. I mean, again, we really need to pick and choose the appropriate songs. So I wouldn't choose a long, I mean, like a song with long lyrics. Again, I would just find an appropriate one for my learners. And those good old songs, Frank Sinatra's, Nat King Cole's, they're like short, easy, simple, ABBA. Yes, so pick and choose the right song.
There's one from Millie. These activities are very nice to teach vocabulary to young learners, but can we use them to teach grammar items?
Exactly. So there are some songs, and on the course books as well, they the language, the target language is embedded there. So you can use that song as a kind of context for your lesson. So again, rather than using a listening text or a reading activity, you can use that song to teach that grammar item. But again, you need to pick and choose the right song. So let's say for second type conditional, with my not very young learners though, with, I mean, because it's just a bit of like the language level is high, second conditionals, I use I wish I, if I were a rich man song. So language is there, I set a task and then I extract some sentences from that song. There you go.
Thank you. That's an interesting question again. Should we be good at art to add it in our lessons?
No, remember my story. It was me trying to draw an octopus when my students were like, "Teacher, it's a plane," but no, it was an octopus. I mean, seriously, it's not about being good or bad. Just try to encourage your learners, and again, try to add that playfulness when you teach.
Thank you, Sinem. I'm going to take the last question.
Okay.
This is quite an interesting one. What about the parents who think we are not teaching during the lesson when we integrate music and art to our lessons? This is in an online context, I think.
Can you please, I cannot see the question, so who is it from?
1 second.
Maybe I can see.
Right, okay. It's in the answered part of the
question.
Oh,
okay.
From Gülsar. What about the parents? It's the very last one, Sina.
Okay, the parents, okay.
This is in an online teaching context.
Yeah.
I think.
Again, I had a lesson on Saturday and we were singing and dancing. So again, this is not the whole lesson. So it's just the kind of bits and pieces. So I'm sure parents will will love the way their children are engaged and repeating some English words, lexical sets, chunks. So as long as you get your learners to sing along with you, they'll be using the language. So yes, you can still do it when it's online. Again, it's all about this age appropriacy, being child-friendly, and picking and choosing the right time, right moment, and right stage for it.
Thank you, Sinem. That was all the questions.
Thank you.
It was great. It was really good fun, and we did get lots of nice practical ideas from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. So, dear teachers, we have a few minutes left for our second session. We could use this few minutes, we've got 3 minutes, to have a little pause. Please don't leave the session, stay with us, but you can have your drinks or if you've got any needs in between. We will be here at 4 p.m. sharp for our second session. Thank you. Hello again. It's time for our second session. The second session is The Right Criteria by George Heritage and Victoria Peña. George and Victoria both work at the Assessment Services Department of Cambridge Assessment English, Spain and Portugal, and today they're joining us from Madrid. Victoria, George, welcome to our Cambridge Days 2021 in Turkey. The floor is now yours.
Hello, thank you, welcome.
Thank you very much, welcome. And hello, everybody. Thank you all for having us. Can you hear me okay, Victoria?
I can.
Yeah, excellent. I'll just get the PowerPoint up. Can you see that? Can you see that, Victoria?
I can, yeah.
Let me just go full screen. Excellent. So what are we talking about, Victoria?
We're going to be writing about, we're going to be speaking about the right criteria.
Yeah, a little further.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are going to be looking at how the assessment criteria can, of course, help with assessment, but they can also inform the design of tasks.
Exactly. I think bearing the criteria, we will be looking at the criteria that we use at Cambridge, which obviously we think covers the areas it should do, but we'll be looking at how that criteria can be picked out of all of the writing tasks that we use in exams. And both Victoria and I feel that bearing this criteria in mind whenever designing tasks for your students is very useful. It's very easy to focus as teachers on, grammar, vocabulary, spelling, but there's a lot more to writing than that. So we'll be looking at the Cambridge English model of writing, the criteria that comes out of that. We'll look at a couple of tasks and pick those apart. Then what, Victoria?
Then we're going to look at write and improve.
Yeah, we'll pick apart some of the criteria at higher levels as well, and then we'll have a quick look at write and improve at the end. I don't know if many of you are using write and improve. It's a great tool, but as I said, we'll look at that at the end. So just check I can, there you go. So to start off, this will be quite an interactive session. So we'd like your feedback. Firstly, a little question to warm you up. Do you think we write more or less than we did in 1998? Ooh. Less, of course, not more at all. More. About 50-50 at the moment.
What do you think, George?
I don't know. Somebody said we might write more informally. Depends on what we write. Ooh, very nice. No, about half and half, I think. What do you think, Victoria?
I saw some participants mentioning the aspect of keyboards and writing on computers, so typing. So definitely we do much more than that, and much more of that. And I think we also write, but maybe shorter texts. More.
Yes, I think volume-wise, we write considerably more today than we did in 1998. I think a much broader range of society and of professions are writing a lot more. I mean, I had to change phone. I always tell this story, I don't know, Victoria. I had to change phone about a year ago, and I downloaded a few of the more pertinent WhatsApp conversations so that I didn't lose them before I did the handover. And I think in less than 6 months, I had sent 25,000 messages to one person. Well, between the two of us, 25,000 messages. So I think we are writing a lot more very differently than perhaps how we did in 1998. I think 1998, letters, maybe the beginning of emails, Victoria, I don't know. Faxes. So it's a very different approach to writing, but I think everybody is writing a lot more. That does have a knock-on effect on the kind of language that we use. I saw people talking about emojis. And things like autocorrect. We will see, I think we are yet to see the effect that will have on What generation is it? Is it Z? Is Generation Z born in the last sort of
I'm a bit lost
10
with
years?
that.
Yeah. We're both millennials, well, I am. I'm not sure about Victoria.
I'm younger than you, George.
Marginally. I think we're yet to see the effect it will have on that generation, because they are all writing a lot. But as I said, with that support of autocorrect and autofill, maybe that will have an impact on our writing. Okay, so we had mixed answers for that one. Mm-hmm. Now, in the chat box, we'd like you to say what is good writing? What characterizes good writing? What aspects make writing good? That wasn't a very nice way of saying it.
Coherence.
Very nice. Accuracy. Creativity. Very nice. Coherence. Good. Organization. Mm-hmm. Content. Punctuation. Mm-hmm. Cognition. Grammar. Ideas. Grammar for sure. Good grammar. Spelling. Yes, I think traditionally, the first things that pop into people's heads are correct spelling. I'm glad we spelled that right on the slide. Correct grammar. And lastly, Victoria?
Yeah, and also clear punctuation.
Exactly. Punctuation is very important, as we all know. However, do you think that is all, Victoria? What else do we have in the chat box?
Well, I think that our participants mentioned organization, so coherence, cohesion, very important, and of course ideas, because you need to put ideas into words, right? To write.
Well, yeah, you would hope so. Ideally. And I think it all very much depends on, what writing we are looking at. Some of my favorite authors, Nobel Prize winning authors, I've read whole chapters without any punctuation at all. So again, it depends very much on the context, on the purpose of the writing. I'm glad I saw a lot of communicative and communication. The writing criteria we are looking at is all based, like our speaking criteria, on the communicative approach to language teaching and language learning. So whether the students have achieved the communicative purpose is always very high up, or underlying anything within one of our exams at least. So going a little bit more technical, Victoria, for our purposes, both as teachers, extracting writing from our students to help improve, and within an assessment context, what do we mean by writing, Victoria?
Well, here back in 1991, Ham Leon was giving us some hints of what we mean by writing. So she mentioned that it was a piece of continuous written text of 100 words or more, but here, of course, we need to take into account our students' level, because maybe 100 words is not appropriate for an A2.
Some of the best and most creative writing I've seen is by Flyers candidates who only have to write 35 words or more. Sorry, continue.
Also, how much freedom we give our students to create a response to the input. Here in the chat box, our participants were mentioning freedom, but of course we need to take into account that if we're going to measure everything against a common yardstick for a level, then we need to maybe think about some guidelines so that students write following them.
Exactly. I mean, we have to have some sort of framework within which the students do have substantial freedom, but not to go too far. I mean, it's very easy, first day back after school, write about your holidays. And you get a vast variety of approaches to a task like that, but then can you mark that in a standardized, fair way, and then give effective feedback, especially if you're dealing with 60, 90, 120 students. Lovely. Moving on, Victoria, the writing task.
Yes, also, well, this has to do with what we were mentioning already. So defining a very clear objective. So what is our objective? What do we want to assess and measure? And so limitations, guidelines, so that students are writing a very similar piece of writing, and then of course with different levels and their different characteristics.
Exactly. Again, it depends on the purpose for us, but we need to make the domain clear so that we are extracting a piece of writing that is appropriate to our needs and what we want to achieve. So does anybody know when the first ever Cambridge English exam took place? Ideas in the chat box. I'll give you a hint. It was proficiency. The first ever 1500. Nice attempt, but no. Cambridge English. We started in what the exam board started in the mid-19th century. So our first exam, 1970, 44, 68. And we have quite a chronological range here. Victoria?
I think it was back in 1913.
It was 1913. We had four candidates or three candidates.
I thought it was three, but
maybe it was three candidates for proficiency. They all failed after over 12 hours of examination time. Things have come on a long way since here, but here's a very quick look at part of the writing for that. So English essay, 2 hours, write an essay on one of the following subjects. Can you tell us what the problems are with this writing task? They were so prestigious. I think they're still quite prestigious. I think proficiency is still quite a prestigious. Congratulations for passing with a B.
Congratulations.
Political correctness, previous historical knowledge, topics too general. Some of them are quite specific, I would say, but yes, culture-based. Mm-hmm. Are we really focusing on their ability to use English? I mean, we may be. I mean, you would have to have quite a command and grasp of English, probably quite academic English to be able to answer these, but you would also need a lot of background and cultural knowledge. And for our purposes, that's not hugely relevant, is it, Victoria?
No, we focus on language.
So how do we approach writing today? We have come on quite a long way in the last century and a bit. The Cambridge English model of writing, at the center of it all has, Victoria?
The message. So this is what we are, apologies for that. So
not happy with the writing task.
They are not. So the message, which is the piece of writing that we need to submit, that our students are going to produce.
Exactly. So as I said before, with the communicative approach, the message is, I'll take over whilst Victoria deals with her sausage dogs. And the message is at the heart of everything. What do you need to create the message, Victoria? We mentioned this earlier. You're on mute.
Sorry, you need ideas. So this is the cognitive side of the task. So we need to come up with ideas.
Lovely. To try and transmit those ideas, we obviously use language. So there is the linguistic aspect, and then tying these together, Victoria?
Yeah, we need to think about who we are writing to, the context. So this is the sociolinguistic aspect.
Exactly. So this will play into the register we use, the type of language we use, the type of vocabulary we use, probably the structure of the piece of writing, whether it's an essay or a report or what else do we do, Victoria? An essay, a report, a proposal,
an article,
etc., etc. And obviously these all interplay with one another. Okay, do you think that's clear, Victoria?
I hope it was clear.
I hope it was clear. So let's jump forwards to, what is this? First, B2 first or B1 preliminary?
I think it is B1 preliminary.
And it might be old B1 preliminary, for which we apologize, but it doesn't matter what we're talking about. is still relevant, exactly. So what do we see here, Victoria? Firstly,
yeah, sorry, I need to move the chat box.
The topic is always very clearly outlined, okay? So my grandma's given this money, what do you think I should do? That will help structure probably some of the sociolinguistic and the message itself.
And the message, the content. Mm-hmm.
Next, Victoria.
Yeah, we need some context so that we can produce a piece of writing which is relevant. So this should be part of the task, of course, and it should be clear.
Coming out of that, we have the purpose. So it's halfway between the purpose. There's enough money to buy a camera or do this, or my parents want me to save. What do you think I should do? Again, there's interplay between all of these, just to try and pick it apart. We always make clear who the target reader is. Mm-hmm. So it is your English friend, not the school English magazine, which I know pops up quite a lot. And some of our tasks, perhaps more for schools tasks. Next, Victoria.
Yeah, we need to look at the text type, because this is going to have an effect on the conventions and the structure of the task.
Exactly. This all popped up in the chat box earlier, so giving a clear outline. So I think with all of these areas, students should have a very clear idea of what it is they need to do. What is the last aspect which we haven't highlighted? I did see it pop up in the chat box. Is it the last one, Victoria? Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. It is. What's the last bit of information? Yes, lots of articles for school magazines. What is the last bit of information that features in all of our tasks, from young learners all the way up to proficiency?
Ah, there you go.
Oh, well done, Ozan. Yes, there is always a word limit. Just a little health warning about this. There are lots of urban myths about word limits, okay? I think you'll see in recent revisions, we've been a little vaguer and said about. This has stayed. I think that's changed in other exams as well. Here we say about 100 words, okay? In other levels, sort of A2 key, it used to say 25 to 35, and in higher levels, 140 to 180, 220 to 260. These are based on our experience of millions of candidates at that level, writing the piece they're expected to write within an exam situation within a given amount of time, okay? If candidates write fewer than the stipulated word count, they're not going to lose marks. As we will see, the criteria we use, we do not penalize. It is all very positive criteria. Okay, if they write fewer than 100 words, it's not going to be the end of the world necessarily. If they go over the word limit, again, it's not going to instantly affect their mark. But as I said, these are taken from experience of millions of candidates doing it. The last thing we want in an exam is people, and I've seen it before, students sitting there crossing out words. Oh, I've written too many words, crossing them out. It's like, there are much better ways to spend your time in an exam, okay? Again, if they go way over, it's likely that there'll be unnecessary repetition. It opens up the scope for making mistakes, getting a little bit careless, especially if they're writing furiously. And again, fewer than the stipulated word count, considerably fewer, it's unlikely that they will have satisfied all of the criteria. Mm-hmm. Was that clear, Victoria? Was that enough?
It was clear, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there is no limit. There is no limit in our exams. Again, I have heard there are lots of urban myths, 20% fewer or more than 20% fewer. In Cambridge exams, that is not the case, and that you hear about, oh, if they go more than 10% over, we draw a line and don't mark. I have heard rumors that other exam boards do that. We do not. Writing examiners have to read everything that is written, but again, going way over, you're opening up the possibilities of unnecessary repetition, mistakes, etc. Can you still hear me, Victoria? Somebody says they can't hear us. hopefully that's a one-off. Okay, so just to check you were all concentrating, we're going to have a look at this. What are we going to start with, Victoria?
We're going to start with topic.
Topic. So quickly in the chat box, have a quick read of this input. And can you tell us what is the topic, please?
Not global warming.
Yes, not the environment for once. Yeah, I did take out a little bit though. It's we love giving this session, but we've given it in an hour and a half before. We don't have time for that today. I'll go into this in a second. Exactly, teenage clothes shop. Again, super original. I will go into why some of our writing tasks aren't hugely interesting. Next, context.
Context.
What is the context? There's always a context setting bit in our rubric. Innovation in fashion. Context. An advert. Yes, exactly. You see this advert in an international fashion magazine. Do you think could you see this advert popping up in Vogue, for example, Victoria? Do you think it might be slightly?
You never know.
The design might be slightly different.
Yeah, I suppose so.
The purpose. Purpose, anyone? Yes, lovely.
Would you recommend?
Okay, you're recommending. We're looking at functional language here. We're taking a step up from B1 where we start to extract more functional language and build on the sort of short answers that you get in A2. Once you get up to B2, explaining, recommending, suggesting, a little bit more developed than at B1. Target reader.
Yeah. Teenagers.
Teenagers, yeah. I imagine this is from a For Schools exam, don't you, Victoria? Teenagers where you live, so it can be personalized and localized to some degree. Text type, review. I think we can all read review in bold at the bottom. I like review. With my stronger students, I would push them towards writing reviews or articles, I think, because they within the boundaries of the task, I think they probably have a bit more freedom in a review or an article. They can use more rhetorical devices, rhetorical questions, etc. For our less confident students, let's say at B2 and above, I would stick to the more structured ones, reports, proposals, and then perhaps a little safer. But again, that's up to you and your students. One thing, whilst I remember that, at B1 preliminary, please try and discourage your weaker students from writing the story. Okay, can you develop that a little bit, Victoria?
Yeah, I think that stories can be a bit challenging. You have to take into account verb tenses, coherence and cohesion as well.
Beginning, middle, end, etc.
Yeah. So it is true that students may think that it is easier to write a story, but then they don't think about, or they don't take into account these aspects when writing it. So then it can be a problem.
And sometimes they don't do as well alongside or in relation to the criteria. And the last one, Victoria?
Yeah, word count.
Word count. So yeah, this is B2 first, I would say. Okay, how are we doing for time? Perfect. Right, we've had a little warm up. So just to check how many of you know our writing criteria well, what are the 4 criteria that we use? The first one, beginning with a C.
Yeah.
Content. Excellent. There is no excuse for candidates not getting full marks on content, especially at lower levels. I think everything is very clear. 3 bullet points, 4 bullet points. Make sure they score well on content, okay? And what I really like, what I was saying at the beginning about, you know, something that's easy to focus on, vocab and grammar, or maybe something like organization. We all have students who are never going to be able to spell very long, complicated words. Well, not never, but you know what I mean, Victoria. And we always have those strong students, very good speakers, who always forget the third person singular S, okay? But they can still do very well. These criteria are equally weighted in our writing tasks. So even if their language is never going to be perfect, they can still score well if they satisfy these other criteria. So the O, I have seen organization, yes. We'll look a little bit more at organization later. CA, that's the one that you can't guess if you don't know.
No, there you go. It's in the chat box already.
Beautiful. Communicative achievement. Again, we'll be looking at that in a little bit more detail at the higher levels in a second. And obviously the last one, Victoria.
Language.
Language, so grammar, vocab, etc. So moving from lower levels up to higher levels, there is a difference in the development of these criteria, and I think in what we're trying to extract from our students. Do you want to talk us through this, Victoria?
Yes, we see that our marking criteria reflect the transition between from knowledge telling, where we find at lower level writing, where the focus is more on the control of language and there is a more limited freedom. We were talking about that before. So students perform better when they are giving more instructions or these bullet points, these content points that they can develop later. At higher levels, high level writing, we see that the focus is still language. It is always relevant, but there is a greater focus on organization and register. And then we can remove a bit of this support. So we increase the freedom because students don't need that much support at these levels. And we see that here, more than knowledge telling, we are talking about knowledge transformation, knowledge transforming.
And yeah, what Victoria was saying about a greater focus perhaps on organization and register. I think this even comes in sort of from B1. I think that's where there's a step up organization wise, I think, or we would hope for there to be. I'm just actually, because we're a little bit ahead of time, I'm just going to put something on screen. I'm just going to change windows, Victoria.
Okay.
Right, let me see if I can do this. Share screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, we can. It's not in presentation mode though.
No? Okay,
no.
Wait, let me is that in presentation mode? Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is a B1 task. Okay, this is the new
B1?
article. Yeah, this is the article which has been introduced in the revision from the beginning of last year.
2020.
So, English Language Magazine. What makes you laugh? Write an article telling us what you find funny, who you enjoy laughing with. Do you think it's good to laugh a lot? Why? The best articles answering these will be published next month. So with our B1 hats on, I'd like you to have a look. Can you see that? Has that changed, Victoria?
Yes.
I'd like you to have a look at this task quickly, okay? I'd like to give them a mark on language and on organization. Okay, so from 1 to 5, a 3 we would say is B1, a 4 is a strong B1, a 5 the beginnings of B2. Okay, can you keep an eye on the chat, Victoria? I've got too many windows open.
Yeah.
So for language and for organization.
Some of the feedback that we are getting is that language is problematic. This task.
B1. B1. Anything else, Victoria? I'm just going to try and move my windows around so I can see the chat.
I can see some marks coming in. So 4, 2.
Okay, spelling mistake, same sentence structure. No organization. Oh, interesting.
Spelling mistakes. Yeah. Problems with
3,
structure.
2.
Cohesion.
Very interesting. Okay, and now I would like you to have a look at this. Another answer to the same question, language and organization. Anything coming in, Victoria? Or are we still on the last one?
3, 4 for a B1 learner, 5, 5, language 4, organization 5. It is good. Coherent.
Haphazard organization. I really
language 4, organization 2.
I really like this example.
Much better with idiomatic language.
The language here is much stronger, definitely.
More complex.
No, we're having a bit of debate about the organization. This is why we chose this one in particular. Okay, so this first one, here are the marks. Content, 5, okay? And the rest is B1, okay? Language is B1, organization. They are standalone sentences, I think, but it is connected, it's coherent. Paragraphs are used, let's see. Yeah, here we have one paragraph, which is 2 sentences. It's a short piece of writing. And the language, everyday vocab, used generally appropriately. So for a B1, language is what we would expect from a B1 student. Okay, if we move on to the second one, I chose this because I actually, when the handbook came out after the revision, I got a phone call in the office from a furious teacher because of this, and that's why I really like to use it. This candidate scores 5s for everything. Okay, the content, yes. The language, we know this is above B1. Okay, this is B2 language. Sort of solid B2. As you know, or as I hope you know, the way our criteria works is we have a B1, we have a band 1, a band 3, and a band 5. If a candidate shares characteristics of 3 and 5, they'll get a 4, 3 and 1, a 2. But a band 3, a B1 is B1. A band 5 is a band 3 at B2. So all of our criteria interlock and overlap because we recognize that each level does not exist in isolation. Okay, it's not an island. So a 5 here at B1 is a B2. Why did that teacher ring and why was she so angry, Victoria?
You tell me, George, I didn't speak to her.
It was the organization. Just like, how can this candidate get full marks on organization? There are no paragraphs. Okay, what is far worse than this is a nicely structured, coherent piece of writing. It moves on logically. It has internal referencing using pronouns, signposting, referencing back and forth. For such a short piece of writing, I would much rather see that than, and this happens a bit more once you get up to B2, you get these essays and the students have had it drilled into them, 4 paragraphs, introduction, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and a piece of writing with sometimes seemingly random paragraphing is much more distracting than a nicely constructed, coherent piece of writing. Okay, so I'm not saying do not encourage your students to use paragraphs, but make sure they're using them effectively. Also, once we get up to B2, we kind of often fall into that linking word trap as well. Do you know what I mean, Victoria?
Yes.
Yeah,
When
4 paragraphs and every sentence has a linking word
a
in
linking
it.
word.
And that will not help. As I said, we do not penalize with our criteria. It's all positive criteria, but it's not going to help if there are too many linking words used incorrectly or ineffectively. Okay, I just wanted to drop that in because I really like that organization example. Right, I'm going to go back to the other share, Victoria, if I can. Lost my windows. Sorry, stay with me, I'm coming. Back to share.
Yeah, I like the, it is mentioned in the chat box that it doesn't have to be perfect. I think this is something very important that we need to take into account, that it needs to be effective enough, it needs to be clear enough for the level that we are aiming for. And
definitely. And a lot of people said spelling, grammar, and yes, but this is B1 criteria, okay? And within the grammar and vocabulary criteria at the upper end of each level is attempts more complex structures. Doesn't say pulls them off, gets everything correct, but if they're aiming for something which is above level, they will be recognized for that. It doesn't matter if they make a mistake, but if they're aiming for something B2 and don't quite get it right, that is recognized and it's rewarded. Well, not
they
rewarded.
are rewarded.
It's not the opposite. Okay, so some spelling mistakes with more complex lexis or some grammatical errors are not going to affect their marks. Okay, in a multi-level test, that would be different, but this is focused on a level. So the criteria that they are marked against is appropriate to that level. So we had a quick look at organization at the lower end. Communicative achievement is another criterion that becomes complex or becomes a bit more problematic from sort of B1, B2 upwards, I would say. A lot of teachers see communicative achievement and they think register, and that's it. It's quite clearly from, it's only introduced at B1, isn't it, Victoria?
At B1, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because students are not expected to produce enough writing, or there's not enough variety of text types to really make it worthwhile criterion to assess at A2. Same with our speaking and discourse management. But you can see that the descriptors are very clearly structured around 2 ideas. So it's using the conventions of the task. 3 areas really: conventions of the task across all levels, and the appropriacy at B1. So this is B2 first. So a band 1 here is a band 3 in B1. Yeah. So conventions of the task to communicate straightforward ideas. That's a B1. B2, conventions of the task to hold attention and communicate straightforward ideas. And 5, so we're moving up into C1 here. The big difference, conventions of the task effectively, but is to communicate straightforward and complex ideas as appropriate. We have, I mean, it's not a big problem, but often we're getting younger and younger candidates entering for C1, for advanced, or even B2, and their grammar and their vocab is very strong. They do very well on the use of English, and sometimes they drop in the writing. And in the majority of cases, it's not because of their grammar and vocab. It could be maybe a bit, as I was saying, linking words and their organization. But it's communicative achievement where they begin to drop. And a lot of the problems, I think, come with this communication of more complex ideas. I think sometimes they're simply not mature enough in some ways, sometimes, to really get up to that C1. The 2 and the 4, as I mentioned earlier, are combinations. If a text demonstrates some aspects of 3 and some of 1, it would be a 2. Why do we only have 3 bands? It would be too much for our examiners to effectively and
apply the criteria.
Consistently apply. It's the same with our speaking criteria. We only have descriptors for 3 bands, and so it's combinations of the 2. So communicative achievement.
And then language.
And here's language. So again, B2, we're looking at range of everyday vocab appropriately, occasional inappropriate use of less common lexis, a range of simple, some complex grammatical with a good degree of control, not perfect by any means. Very important across all of these three bands is that if errors are present, they don't really affect meaning, even at B1. Okay, errors are noticeable, meaning still determined. Band 3, B2, errors do not impede communication. And then moving up to C1, occasional errors may be present but do not impede communication. So trying to bear that in mind, take a photo if you would like of this, because we're going to have a look at two little extracts and see this interplay that I was talking about between language and communicative achievement. Take a quick photo if you'd like. It's only a short text we'll be looking at. All right. So these are both taken from the essay section of B2 First. Victoria? Teenagers are too young to teach other people about anything. Please discuss. And B, every country in the world has problems with pollution and damage to the environment. Do you think these problems can be solved? So we would like you to give A mark for language. A, language. What would we give this? So using that B2 criteria. I can't see the chat, Victoria.
At the moment, I think they are thinking.
Yes. Everybody's typing at once. A, 5. Anyone else? So creeping up towards C1. Yep, 5, 5, 5. A, 4.
Very positive.
Yeah, I'd say a 4 or a 5. A couple of little, very much non-impeding errors. One very slight awkwardness. But yeah, for B2, grammar and vocab, great. No problems there at all. Okay. Can we give B a mark for language, please?
Okay, some 3s. That's also some 5s. From 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Interesting. 3, 2. Somebody said 2. 3, B5. Yeah, we're dropping down. Yeah, B, the language is, they are attempting something quite complicated, but it does fall down. And I do love this sentence though. Obviously that cleaning manufacturing water helps to avoid extinction of ocean residents. Yes, A, I think got a 4 or maybe a 4.5. 4 for language, grammar and vocab. B, I think got a 2. This is heading much more towards B1, I would say. However, communicative achievement, we never assess sentences or chunks in isolation. It is, the criteria is applied to the whole text, but for today's purposes, the communicative achievement here, what are the issues here, Victoria? A does not do as well as B.
No.
Why not?
Well, because I think it is trying to say in a very complicated way. It is trying to express quite a simple idea. It is basically agreeing with the task or the rubric, whereas in the case of the second candidate, we see that the idea that they are trying to communicate is much more complex.
It is more complex. Okay, so B is doing better here on communicative achievement. Obviously, the language isn't quite there. So I think this was just to try and help demonstrate that there can be quite big differences in different criteria, which is why I think it's important to have clear criteria, evenly weight it, and make our students as aware of it as possible. lead-in activities and lead-out activities. Using checklists is a really nice way to try and help our students become more aware of whether they are satisfying the criteria in the right way. And also what we like to call success criteria. We haven't got enough time to go into that today, but do you want to quickly summarize success criteria for us, Victoria?
Mm-hmm. Yes, success criteria are based on the assessment criteria, and they are written down to level. Okay, so that students can fully understand them and apply them to self-assessment or even peer assessment. So what we usually do is like write very clear and direct questions that are related to the assessment criteria so that students can decide whether they are doing what they are expected to do or not.
Exactly. All of our writing assessment criteria is published in all of our handbooks, but it was written for examiners, okay? The examiners were the target audience, nice, the target readers. So especially at lower levels, and I think it's really important, even at lower levels, to get students interacting with and becoming very familiar with the criteria can help them throughout. And so, yeah, for B1, especially A2, you can't show them the writing criteria or the speaking criteria. So extract the essentials, write it in A2 language, make it accessible to them, and encourage them to be reflecting on what they're writing in the criteria from a very early age or level, I think can help a lot. So just to finish off, I think we've got 5 or 6 minutes. Do any of you use Write and Improve? Okay. I know a couple of you do. I see a couple of people saying it's very useful. I use Apologies for those of you who are already using it. But this, I think, is one of the best resources we have. Do you agree, Victoria?
Yeah, I think it is very useful for teachers and for students.
Do you want to talk us through how it works quickly, Victoria?
Yeah, it is very useful for students because they can register and it is free. They can choose a task that is suitable for their level, and then they can type in their answer or copy and paste, and they are going to receive instant feedback. And then they can, with this feedback, they can write again, redraft their piece of writing and submit it again. So they can see their progression. And for teachers, it's very useful because they can use these tasks, but they can also create their own tasks and maybe concentrate on aspects that the students need more support with.
Yeah, and Write and Improve, it's artificial intelligence, and it was trained using millions of scripts from candidates in exams. Okay, this is one of the big differences. It's not a spell checker, it's not Grammarly. It was trained on non-native users, so it has a very intimate knowledge of what is typical of an A2, what's typical of a B1. It's one very big difference between this and spell checkers, etc., which are directed at and trained mainly on native language users. So it's super simple to use. You can do it on a phone, a tablet, or a laptop. We took this example just to show you how it looks and how it works. There's a typical A2 task, paragraph describing your home, blah, blah, blah. I'll go quite quickly now, so we'd like to have some time for questions. This was the task that I chose. I put on my A-level student hat and wrote this. I'll give you a very quick look at that. This is the kind of thing you might expect from an A1 Spanish learner. Do you think, Victoria, do you think that's fair? Something along those lines. Plop that in, you click a button and get instant feedback. Okay, so it tells me up here, A1, unsurprising. And you can see here on the text, there are different ways to highlight the feedback. So we have feedback at word, phrase, and sentence level. So you can see, hello, friend, we've got spelling issues there. In other areas, you have a question mark or a blue box around something. You hover over the spelling, it will, in most cases, say, did you mean to write this? But what's really great is that other areas, it doesn't give the students the answer. It says, oh, we think a word's missing here. this could be written slightly differently. So it's directing them towards where the problems are and putting the responsibility in the students' hands to make the changes and then see how they progress. Okay, as I said, I think it's one of the best resources we have by a long way. And grammar vocab wise, it is very consistent and it knows what it is doing. I think, you know, we're in the middle of this ed tech explosion, but we have to be very aware of the things that technology can do more quickly, more consistently, more efficiently than humans, and the things that humans can do much better. And if we're looking at the higher levels, things like organization, communicative achievement, I don't think Write and Improve will ever really have quite the experience or the instinct that a teacher has. But things like spelling, grammar, etc., it can do like that. So it can, you can put away your red pens or your green pens or your yellow pens and again focus more on other aspects. We've got a few versions of this task just to show that it works all the way up. So we started at A1. Here I made a few improvements, plopped it in. I think this took it up to A2. Congratulations. Here you can also see you have the feedback screen, which we looked at, and the changes screen. So they can see what they have changed, compare that to the feedback and see where they have improved. Again, there's the feedback screen. I improved it a bit more. I think I pulled it up to B1. Yep, here you can see a little progress chart of how I did.
This is why, George, sorry, this is why it is important that they log in. It is free because they will be able to see their progress. Okay,
exactly.
So that's one of the reasons why it is important that they log in.
It's very useful that they make an account and they can see how they're progressing. Again, here you can see where the changes were made. And just to prove that it does work all the way up, I went a little bit overboard and wrote a tortured letter to Maria about her new life and blah, blah, blah. And I did manage to get C2 or C2 plus. So when it first started 5 or 6 years ago, it was pretty solid at A2, B1, moving up. It wasn't very good at the higher levels, but now it's had so much input that it can assess consistently and solidly across all levels. So please use it, okay? Remember, as I said, there are things that humans will always be able to do better than Write and Improve, but spelling, vocab, grammar, it can do like that. And it can leave you as teachers to focus on the more complex criteria with your students. Okay, so do we have time? I think that's all. Oh God, how many have we got? Oh, should we have 5 minutes for questions and then look at the last resources? Is that okay, Ulkim, or do we need to finish?
Yes, thank you, George. No, we can have some questions now. There are some questions in the Q&A box. If you want, you can take it as you go, or I can read them out for you.
I can see some. The first one, Victoria. Is it an obstacle to obey the grammar rules when writing?
Well, I think that we need to take into account language. It is a criterion. Grammar and vocabulary are necessary and we need to follow the rules. But I think what we were trying to say is that it is not the only criterion.
Exactly.
There a lot more going on, and that needs to be taken into account for communication to take place.
Exactly. I think really have a look at these criteria we've looked at today if you haven't before, and try and make your students more aware of the various areas. Obviously, grammar and vocab, yes, but there are other things to take into account. How much would we worry about the spelling mistakes of first graders? That's a very difficult question to answer, Victoria. There are things, obviously, you know, spelling, and I know how horrible English is for spelling. I've only read some Turkish. That looks pretty difficult as well. But compared to Spanish, which is it's completely phonetic. It's quite a jump for some of our younger Spanish learners, and I know English spelling is awful, but it's not the be all and end all. It is part of the greater picture of writing. Do you think dictation can be beneficial in the lesson, Victoria?
I think it has its place for sure. So yeah, why not? We can include it. It will certainly help with spelling. And of course, it is a nice tool that you can use in addition to other activities. What do you think, George? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a great listening activity, dictation. There are lots of interesting ways you can play with dictations, do running dictations and jigsaw dictations, things like that. Are you frowning at my answer, Victoria? Are you trying to read?
No, I'm trying to read. Sorry, apologies.
What was he talking about?
No.
When we mentioned the word limit, we said writing below is not a problem. There's no limit. Is it the same for secondary? IGCSE, we are speaking about Cambridge English exams, okay? And it's not that it's not a problem. If it's more or less 100 words and they're writing 60, it's very unlikely that they will have fulfilled the content criteria, that they will have produced enough language to satisfy communicative achievement and vocab and grammar. So I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. I'm saying there are other things they should be focusing on, okay? They are guidelines, and I can't speak for IGCSE. I imagine it is similar. They are guidelines based on lots of evidence, so try and stick more or less to the guidelines. Most of my students don't want to write anything at all, and especially in online lessons, listening, reading, speaking. Any tips for motivation, Victoria?
Well, maybe maybe collaborative writing could be useful if they work with classmates. They find it more motivating. I think that taking writing from the process from the perspective of process writing, so going with them in the along the different stages of the writing process would be also useful, and then try to include some topics that they find interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think trying to make it as relevant to our students as possible. I know I said that I would mention why our tasks are so boring. I will very briefly. All of our material is based on what is it? PARSNIPs, which is an acronym. Things we have to avoid in our exams because we don't want our students to be distracted or offended or too interested in what's happening in the exam. We need them to be performing well. You do what you want with your students. I leave leave that to your judgment. I think especially with writing, with all skills, trying to make it as relevant and as engaging to them as possible is one of the best ways for motivation. Online, I think, has opened up lots of opportunities for collaborative writing. Don't you think, Victoria? Using tools like Padlet, etc., which I think can help with the motivation.
Yes, and actually the idea of typing and not having to rewrite drafts of pieces of writing, I think also makes things easier. I don't know if you would like to go for the typing option and not doing any handwriting, but this is just another possibility.
Yeah. Another one about word limits. If we are not to penalize, we do not penalize. Okay, our criteria is all positive criteria. I leave that up to you. Again, it's difficult to satisfy all the criteria if you write too few words, is what I would say.
I think that there needs to be a recommendation. It's not the same to say you write 50 words than writing 200 words. So I think that our students benefit from this recommendation. They don't need to become obsessed by word counts, but it's just, I think it's another guideline.
Yeah. If the topic is handled wrong, again, this is an advantage, I think, to using criteria. Obviously, the content will probably be a disaster. The communicative achievement could, to some degree, be a disaster, but at least they can score very well on their grammar and vocab and their organisation. I think that's a bit of a safety net. Please make sure they understand the question and they do what is asked of them. But it will obviously have a negative effect in an exam situation on the content and the communicative achievement more than anything else, I think, Victoria. And I think we have to stop telling all comes looking like.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're done with our time. I would like to say thank you to both of you. It has been a very informative session. Thank you to both. Writing is quite a challenging skill to teach, to learn, even to assess. So it was good to revisit all the criteria and the descriptors of those bands. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Right, so everyone, now it's time for our third and last session. It's creative thinking and drama activities for teaching online by Tom Godfrey. Tom has worked as an EFL teacher and teacher trainer in a variety of countries. He is the director of International Training Institute in Istanbul. He currently runs teacher training courses leading to the Cambridge TKT, CELTA, CELT-B, CELT-S, Delta, and Train the Trainer qualifications. He is an ELT consultant specializing in curriculum design and teacher education. He is an actor, director, and the founder of Speech Bubbles Theatre Group, which performs musicals to raise money for charities that support education and children in Turkey. So Tom is joining us from Scotland today. Welcome, Tom.
Right.
The floor is now yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Tom. Thank you all very much for coming and attending this webinar. I'm going to be talking about creative thinking and drama. I'm very interested in drama, as theatre, but also how it can be used in the classroom. And I think if you're teaching young learners especially, there are opportunities to make lessons interesting through dramatic play. Children learn by playing. Often they play dramatic games naturally, where they imagine that they are doctors or princesses or Lionel Messi. And this is a very natural process with young children. But then as we become older, sometimes we're more aware of our ego, if you like, and we don't do this dramatic play so often. So it's all about using our imagination. And the other word is creative thinking. So what is creative thinking? Because we're doing a webinar, we're kind of constrained a little bit in terms of the drama activities. I mean, typically drama would be conducted in a face-to-face classroom, and drama would involve using your body and voice. So I'm going to talk about 7 drama activities, and they are drama activities taken from the drama classroom. And then you will need to think about how you can adapt them to your classroom situation. I think all of them can be adapted to the classroom, and I think a lot of them can be adapted to teaching online as well. And it's all about creative thinking. So what is creative thinking? I'd like to be able to interact with you a little bit. So maybe in chat, you can respond. Not to what is creative thinking, because that's quite a complex question. I can't actually see the chat. So I'll just have to imagine what if you're writing into the chat. Creative thinking is kind of a buzzword. Last few years ago, it used to be critical thinking, and now it is creative thinking. And this is one of the skills that is mentioned as one of the 21st century skills. So it's kind of important. But what is it? Well, Bloom created a taxonomy where he had 6 different kinds of cognitive processing. And right at the top is creating. So creating is the highest order of thinking. And right at the bottom is remembering. So that's the lowest order of thinking. And if I remember my school years, when I was at school, I learnt a language which was Latin, which I don't know why I was learning Latin, because nobody actually uses it. But most of the thinking that we were required to do was very low order thinking. It was remembering words. And this is probably why I don't know any Latin now, because it's not engaging. It's not really making me think. There was some understanding and analyzing. We had text and we had to translate them, but generally there wasn't much engagement. I remember being quite bored. Another way of looking at thinking and higher order thinking is we have convergent thinking. And this is kind of activities that we do in class a lot. So it involves any task where we're matching things or answering questions or gap fills or putting words into columns. These are convergent thinking. It's evaluating, it's analyzing, and there is one correct answer. And I think in course books, this is the main kind of thinking. A lot of it is analyzing and evaluating. But this is not really creative thinking. This is not the highest order. If we're thinking creatively, we need to think divergently. In other words, we need to consider more than one answer. So divergent thinking is creating and generating our And the key about divergent thinking is there is no correct answer. Any answer is possible. So why do we do convergent thinking in the classroom and not divergent thinking? That's for you to consider. I'm going to show you some drama activities, and sometimes teachers say they can't do drama activities because their learners have very low level of language. They don't have enough language to do drama. They can't do sketches, they can't do role plays. They don't have enough language. So the first few activities are looking at quite basic language. For example, my name is, I am from, I am a. Now, in a course book, typically, we might have an activity like this. So it's a matching activity, and the learners match the questions with the answers. This is a typical course book activity, but it's not very engaging for the learners. We have two photographs to create a context. We have Aaron and we have Maya, and the learners match. How engaging is this? We don't know who Maya is. We don't know who Aaron is. So it's not clear how interesting this is for learners. One way we can make it more engaging is to think divergently. So we can ask the learners to create their own character. Who are you? Now, if we give them prompts, then they can create the character themselves. Think about what is your name, think about where you are from, or what is your job. Now, obviously, we can personalize this and they can give their own name, or they can create a character which is more engaging. Sometimes they will choose a famous person. So, what is your name? My name is Bond, James Bond. Where are you from? I'm from the United Kingdom. And what is your job? I'm a secret agent, 007. Or if they're more imaginative, they will create a new person. What is your name? My name is Igor. Where are you from? I am from Russia. What is your job? I am a mafia boss, for example. And you notice if they create their own character, then they start thinking about their voice, their body language, their gestures. Having created a character, the next activity I want to talk about is visualization. Now, this is not really a drama technique, but it's a very useful method of imagining different places, different contexts. So the aim is to get the learners to use their imagination and to create a picture in their mind, and to listen to the teacher and respond, not orally, but respond in their imagination, to generate their own ideas and to consider details of the context, like the sounds, what do they see, what do they hear, and to engage the learners in the topic. And then this can lead into other receptive or productive activities. So how do we do this? Well, we tell the learners that their character is going to go on holiday. And we can give some pictures about different holidays and get the learners in pairs or groups to think about different kinds of holidays. And then we will say, okay, so now we are going on a holiday, and I want you to go on the holiday in your mind, in your imagination. So I want you to close your eyes and imagine your character is on holiday. Think about where you are. Look at the buildings. Listen. What do you hear? Do you hear birds, people, the wind? What do you see? So the learners try to create a picture in their imagination. And then you can say to them, okay, so now we're coming back from our holiday. I will count down from 5. And when I reach 0, you are back in the classroom. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So the learners have just been quiet. They've just been relaxing with their eyes closed, but hopefully they have been using their imagination and picturing their character on holiday. Then we can put them into pairs or groups or breakout rooms, and they can tell each other what happened on their holiday. Now, obviously, this kind of visualization can be used for any topic. So you can go back into the past, forward into the future. It's a way of imagining any context. And with the help of pictures, it's a way of creating, the learners creating their own context and creating their own language and their own ideas. And this obviously is more engaging than being given the ideas. And once we have created a character and we have created a holiday or a topic, then we can start thinking about improvisation. And this is essentially learners speaking. So learners speaking to each other. The aim is to develop speaking skills, to give an opportunity for learners to generate language, to be creative, to develop listening, communication skills, and to get the learners collaborating and cooperating with each other. Sometimes it's difficult to get learners to speak to each other in English. But on the other hand, without having the opportunity to practice speaking, then you will never develop any fluency in terms of speaking. So these improvised role plays are worth attempting. Teachers are kind of reluctant to often have improvised role plays between pairs of learners, I think because they're not sure of the outcome. And definitely there is potential, if it's not well managed, for chaos. But if we manage it well, then it is surprising sometimes to see how well the learners can communicate with each other. But the setting up is the key to it. So we need to make sure the learners know who they are, where they are, and what they are doing and why. So we have created a character. That was the first activity. We have sent this character on holiday. That was the second activity. And now we can get two characters, two learners, to talk to each other in a role play. So for example, we can put them on a train. So we say, okay, in pairs, you're on a train. You're not yourself, you are the character you created. You're going to meet your friend. You're going to introduce each other, and you're going to talk about your holiday. So the learners can have a role play. The thing about a role play is the first time the learners do it, it won't be very good. They will be hesitant, they'll be searching for ideas. But if it's repeated and they do it again, you change the learners so they have different pairs, the second time it will improve. And then if you change the pairs again and they do it a third time, it'll be much better. Now you may think, well, doing the same role play again 3 times is going to be quite boring. But actually it's not, because what the learners are doing is they're doing it with a different partner each time. So each time the role play will be different. The answers they get will be different. And gradually their speaking will improve and they will develop their fluency. So we've had 3 activities really. We've created a character, we've had the visualization, and the improvised role play, which is repeated. And these activities can be done with quite basic language, but because the learners are creating the language and generating the language, it's much more engaging than a matching activity or a gap fill activity or ordering sentences, which is all convergent thinking. After they've done their role play, they could be asked to write it as a consolidation. However, if you're just writing a role play which has been performed previously, that's not very exciting. So you can add some constraints. And one idea that I quite like is if you ask the learners to have a 6-line dialogue, and this is a dialogue between the two characters I created. So James Bond is talking to Igor. They're on the train, and the constraint is that the first line of dialogue must be 6 words, the next 5 words, and then 4 words, 3 words, 2 words, 1 word. So although we're talking about creativity, it's not creativity without rules, without structure. In fact, if we add constraints, it adds to the creativity. It makes it more demanding. So in my dialogue, which I prepared this morning, Igor would say, for example, "Afternoon, Bond. How was your holiday?" And Bond would reply, "Brilliant, thanks. What about yours?" "Not so good, actually." "Where were you?" "In prison." "Oh." So the learners can be quite creative, but the constraints add an extra dimension to it. So we've got these, so that's kind of a set of activities. Create a character, send your character somewhere using a visualization, have an improvised role play where the learners, the characters meet each other in a certain place. They do a repeated role play, and then there's a written consolidation, but not just, okay, write the dialogue for homework, with some kind of constraint, which makes it challenging. And you can change the constraints. I started off by thinking, okay, I will do first line must be A, second line B, third line C. But then I found it too challenging for me, so I changed it. But probably not for your learners. They could come up with a dialogue which goes A, B, C, D as well. Okay. The next activity is called hot seating. I don't know if you're familiar with this activity, but essentially what you would do is you would take a learner, or maybe all the learners, and they think of a character, they think of who they are. So they could be somebody from a story, they could be somebody in their course book, or they could imagine somebody, an old man, an old woman, a young man, a young boy. So obviously I can't use a real learner, but I've taken a photograph, and photographs work as well. So you can find a photograph of an interesting person. I found this photograph of a young boy crying. And what you would do is you would take the photograph and say, okay, here is a young boy. On a piece of paper, write down 2 questions that you would like to ask this boy. And maybe you could do that now on a piece of paper or in the chat, which I can't see, but never mind. What 2 questions would you ask this young boy? I'll give you a few minutes to think about 2 questions to ask him.
Hi, Tom. The chat box is at the bottom of the screen to the left of the share screen button.
Yeah, I can find yes, I click on it and nothing happens.
Okay.
For some reason.
Maybe I can read some answers for you, like, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Are you hungry? What happened? Are you okay? What's wrong? How can I help you? Let me hug you.
Ooh, yes. So and this is exactly what the learners do. They start using their imagination. Now, some of the questions will be quite low order questions. So for example, is he crying? Which is a really, really kind of strange question, really, because it's the kind of question that teachers use a lot. So they would show a photograph and they'd say, is he crying? And the learners would say yes. But the natural response to that question is, well, yeah, of course. I mean, do you need my glasses? What, are you blind? I mean, so that kind of question is not really a very good question. But your questions are much more creative because you're using your imagination. So the next kind of level of question would be, why is he crying? Asking for a reason. But then we could have more imaginative responses like, do you need a hug? What will happen next? Is there anyone else in the room? Who are you talking to? What happened? Yeah, what happened? So this is all kind of using our imagination. Then what we would do is we would take a learner and we would say, okay, you are the young boy. You are the little boy who's crying. And then we would get the learners, probably in groups, to choose which questions they want to ask, because they can't ask all their questions. So they need to evaluate their questions and choose the ones that are interesting, and then ask those questions to the little boy, who will be a learner. But because we're doing a webinar, I can't choose you as one of the learners. So I will pretend I'm the young boy. I will pretend that I'm the learner. And maybe Ulkem can ask me some of the questions, and then I will respond as the young boy, just to show you how it works.
Are you hungry?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very hungry.
Are you lost?
Sorry?
Are you lost?
No, I'm not lost. I'm sad.
How can I make you smile?
I'm sad because I wanted my ball. My sister was playing with my ball and she didn't give it to me. And I wanted my ball. So I hit my sister and then she gave me the ball. But my mummy was very angry with me and she said she would get her slipper and give me a smack. It's not. Oh
dear. You answer the chocolate.
I'm going to answer the telephone. Ooh. Oh, sorry, my phone went off just at the middle of my being a little boy. So yes, and then so the learners would respond as the boy in character. So this is hot seating, and it's a very good way of getting the learners to use their imagination about a context. And then, yeah, that's basically how it works. Having created this character or been introduced to this character of the little boy, we can extend this context to a scene. So we can add some more characters. And this is something called thought tracking. So here we can have a scene, we can use a photograph, or more effective is the learners create their own scene. And they can just do it as a frozen image, a tableau. And this allows the learners to use language and to think about what is happening in the scene, in the picture, and what are the characters thinking. So the activity would be to, okay, we've got a father, mother, the little boy, the sister. What are they thinking? And maybe you, in chat, you could just write father, and then what is he thinking? Mother, what is she thinking? And then Ulkem can tell me what some of your ideas are.
Okay, Dad says, not again.
Yeah.
Again with this boy. Father is angry. Father, oh, do you have to do it here? When will I get old and leave the house? That's the kid.
That must be the kid, yeah.
Yeah. Poor brother, the sister thinks. It's not my fault. Mother, I hate this more than you.
Okay, great. Yes, so some nice, nice ideas. And this is learner-generated language. And the factor that's interesting about this is it adapts itself naturally to the level of the learner. So if you have learners who have more command of the language, then they can write thoughts that are more complex. But if you have lower level learners, they will write quite simple language. So, oh no, please. Or some of the phrases that you were coming up with, like this hurts me more than it will hurt you. Then what we can do is once we've thought about what are the characters thinking, then we can put the learners into groups and say, okay, you are the father, you are the mother, you are the boy, you are the sister. Can you create a little scene, a little sketch and dramatize it? And they don't need a lot of language for this. In fact, they could actually do it silently. There's no reason for anyone to actually speak in this context. So they could create a silent sketch, just a few seconds, and then the teacher can stop it and then get them to say what each character is thinking. And then they could do a bit more, stop and say what the character is thinking again. And then different groups can demonstrate the thoughts of the characters. And this can be done online. I mean, it can be done in breakout rooms, and then they come to the main room and they say, you know, I am the father, I am thinking this, and they can adopt the body language and gesture. So that's thought tracking. The next idea is called Conscience Alley. And with this activity, we give the learners an issue. So for example, in our context, we're talking about punishing the little boy for hitting his sister, which is corporal punishment. I mean, it's physical punishment. So our question could be, should corporal punishment be illegal, or is smacking bad? I mean, we can change the language. You know, is it good for the mother to hit the little boy if he is naughty? Now, you might think, okay, this is a little, you know, kind of maybe not a good topic for a lesson. But this is traditionally, drama is used as a means of confronting social issues. So for example, the famous dramatist Augusto Boal, Brazilian, created forum theatre. And the aim of forum theatre was basically to look at social issues such as, abuse or peer pressure or tolerance of different people or bullying at school. And drama is often a way of kind of releasing things, looking at real issues through drama. So it's not through personal involvement, but looking at other characters who are facing some of these issues. And this conscience alley is you give the learners a question, like, is it a good idea for the mother to hit the boy if he's naughty? And you get the learners in 2 lines, and one line you say to them, yes, you think it's a good idea. And the other line you say, no, you think it's not such a good idea. And then you get one learner to be the mother, and the mother walks down the line, and the learners on each side explain whether they think it's good or not good, and give a reason why. So this is a good way of developing their speaking skills and getting them to think about an issue. Again, this can be extended into a writing or a speaking. So in pairs, one of you agree, one of you disagree, what do you think? Or for homework, write down your ideas, whether you think this is a good idea. And it can be used for any problem-solving topic. So it might be something that could be the learners from their different subject areas, like history or what have you. They could have a question like this and half agree, half disagree, and then somebody has to decide which side has the best arguments. The final activity I want to talk about is called the mantle of the expert. And this is a bit more complicated because it's making the learners the experts. And it's used quite often in education when the learners, for example, simulate the model United Nations. So they pretend, if you like, that they are ambassadors to the United Nations. So I'm the ambassador from Turkey or Germany, and they prepare what they're interested in, and then they come to the United Nations and explain their country's opinions. It can be used for sort of parliaments. The children become politicians, or in school, sometimes the children are the teachers for the day or the headmaster. So it's the idea of making the learners the experts. And it can be done in order to give the learners a sense of responsibility, to give them the role of the expert. It challenges them to discuss real issues. It provides a context for problem solving and decision making, and it engages the learners in the topic and provides opportunity for speaking. So if we have been doing a lesson, as we have been doing, on the poor little boy who was naughty and is being punished by the mother, and she's taken the slipper out, we could perhaps have the learners thinking about, well, how would we set this up? What we would do is the teacher would enter the role, enter the drama, and explain the situation. So I'll do that. Well, thank you very much for attending this Zoom room meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody. It's a great honor for me to be hosting the Association of Psychologists here. And it's great to see so many expert psychologists attending this meeting. I'd like to thank you very much for taking some time to be with us today. Now, as you all know, we are experiencing the COVID pandemic, and this means that our children are not able to go out, they're not able to play, they're not able to attend school. And as you all know, as expert psychologists, this is causing problems at home, particularly for parents. Young children are getting bored, they're not engaged, they are getting frustrated, and parents do not know how to handle this situation. So I'm very pleased that all you expert psychologists are here today with the aim of producing an information brochure for parents, giving them suggestions on how we can cope in this difficult situation. So thank you all very much for coming. What we'll do in a minute is we'll go into breakout rooms, and I'll give you the opportunity to discuss the problems that we're facing in society today. And maybe you can start the process of drafting an advice information for parents on how to handle the current problems that they're experiencing in the home. So I'll do that in a second. So then the teacher can come out of role, having set up the situation, put the learners into groups, and they can start discussing the issues. So they are the experts. They are the ones. Now, obviously, they're not really experts, but it does mean that they're engaged in the issue, and it can lead into a project. I mean, it can be an extended piece of work where they find out a bit more information. Now, that topic may not be appropriate, but it could be a topic where they're looking at the environment, or recycling, or carbon fuel. I mean, there's lots of projects that learners can do in school. And in order to engage them in it, they can be given the role of the expert. Okay, so those three activities link with each other. So we have the hot seating, where the learner becomes a character and they answer questions in character. The thought tracking, where you build it into a little scene and the learners think about what are the characters thinking. The conscience alley, so you have a dilemma, a social issue, half the students agree, the other half disagree, and they have to give their reasons, and there is a resolution. Or finally, the mantle of the expert, where the learners become the experts, and they are given the role of experts, and they have to engage in the topic. Now, these are drama ideas, essentially, but I think they can, with a bit of imagination, they can, and this is where the creative thinking comes in, they can be adapted to different levels. They can be adapted to the language classroom, and they can be adapted to online as well. Some of them, not all, not without difficulties, because drama is very much a face-to-face interactive medium. So those are 7 activities. I hope you will, even if you don't use them, I hope they will maybe get you to think of other ideas that are similar that you could try out. Thank you for listening. That's my email, and I also have a blog. And quite a few of these ideas, or drama ideas and lesson plans, are on the blog. I don't update it very often, but there are some things there that you might be interested in. One thing about drama is what teachers worry about is more the sort of the classroom management side of it. So if you've got any questions that you would like to ask about using drama, about creative thinking, and about maybe worries that you have, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Tom. We have got some questions in the Q&A box. I can read them out for you.
Okay.
The first one is from Sezgi. How can we use visualization in kindergarten? The students are Turkish. They are learning English from the beginning. How can they show their visualization?
Yes. Well, the idea of visualization is that you're creating pictures in your mind. So I think, yeah, you can adapt it. I mean, you could do it so you get them to close their eyes and play some music and just say, what pictures come to your mind? Or you could even do it in Turkish. I mean, you could play them some sounds, play them some music, show them a picture, ask them some questions. They could kind of visualize it, and then they could respond in Turkish if they don't know the English. I mean, I think with all of these activities, you need to adapt them to your learning context. But visualization is a great one to adapt, because everybody has the potential to picture things in their mind. So how you exploit that is kind of up to you. But it is a really nice way of getting them to just silently think, not for long because they'll get bored, but for 2 or 3 minutes, just get them to think about where they are, what are they doing. Imagine it's very hot. Ooh, where are you? And yeah, it can be very simple questions. Where are you? What do you see? What do you hear? And regardless of their language level, their imagination will be going bloom, and they'll be seeing pictures.
Thank you, Tom. There's another question, actually a couple of questions on shy students. How can we engage them in drama activities?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. And actually the opposite is also true, extrovert learners. So in any classroom where you're getting them to do things in pairs or groups, you will have some learners who try to dominate and do everything. And then there will also be some shy learners who are less willing to, they're less confident, and they won't participate so much. But I don't know that this is a problem in so much as the more opportunities they have for collaborating, the more opportunities they have for interacting with each other, the more likely the shy students will build in confidence and become more accepting of the group. It depends on the learners. I mean, if you have a group where they support each other, then the shy students will develop. And you can have ways of making the extrovert students, you can make their role one of a listener or something. But I think that's a very good question, because I think one of the things about education is we're developing social skills as well. So just labeling a student as a shy student is kind of, okay, that's it, that's finished. But shy students can become confident students. And that, in a way, that's perhaps part of our job as well. I mean, it's helping them interact and develop social skills so that they become more confident using English, talking to their friends. And they will only become more confident if they're given opportunities to become more confident. So yeah, it's definitely an issue, but I think it will only be resolved by doing these activities and giving the shy students opportunities.
Thank you, Tom. There's another question from Daria. My question is about role plays you mentioned. Sometimes during lessons, I ask learners to create a content and build a dialogue, but their vocab level mostly not enough. Under such conditions, should we direct them to use an online dictionary, which is from native language to the target language? That makes me feel suspicious always.
Yes, No, I wouldn't use dictionaries. I mean, I'm very tolerant of errors. I mean, I think if they're communicating and they're using the language, I'm not too worried about the inaccuracies, as long as they communicate. And the good thing about drama is that it is possible to have a dialogue without too many words, particularly if they act it out. So, for example, two people on the train, I mean, it could be quite a dialogue with quite a bit of language like I had, or it could be almost a silent dialogue where they're communicating with gestures and expressions. You know, it could be something like, hello, hello. London? Yes. Oh, you, Manchester. Oh, okay. I mean, it doesn't have, you know, you can manage without too much language.
Thank you. There are a couple of questions on the conscience Ellie. They found it quite interesting, and a comment says, quick way to wrap up or compare ideas. Is there any way to adapt it to online classes?
Yes, I think you'd have to do it in a breakout room. So you'd have to put learners into groups, and you'd have to say, okay, these groups or these rooms are going to agree, these rooms are going to disagree. Think about what you're going to say. And then they all come back into the main room, and then you can just mute and unmute people, and they can. So it's not, yeah, it's not two lines, but it's all the pictures. I mean, the people in the Zoom room. So they'll all give their opinion, and they can't give the same reason as well. In fact, it works quite well online because they have to listen to what the other learners are saying, and they have to come up with a different reason than other learners. So, I mean, that's the advantage of online, is it's actually much easier to hear what the learners are saying online than it is in a face-to-face classroom, where sometimes if they're talking to each other or these two lines, you can't hear what they're saying at all. So yeah, online has that advantage.
Thank you. A couple of questions on some suggestions for drama books.
Yeah, I don't know many good drama books. I did have a look at the Polka Dot series from Cambridge, and that looks fine. I mean, the thing about drama is there are two ways to approach it. One is with a book, with a text, and getting the learners to use the text. And the other, which are the 7 activities I've got, is more devised. In other words, the learners come up with the, so you set the content, the structure, but the learners actually generate the ideas. In terms of drama books for teachers, there are some that I can't remember at the moment. There is a book called Drama in ELT, but to be honest, the great thing about drama is adapting what you're doing in your course book and giving it a drama element. I don't think books help too much, to be honest.
Thank you. There's another question on the visuals that you use, Tom. How can we find these kinds of visuals to use in the classroom?
Yeah, I just went to Google Images and copied them. I used black and white ones because, so for example, I was thinking, I wasn't sure what topic, and then I thought of, okay, it needs to be an image that, you know, was somebody who's either very happy or very upset. So I thought upset might generate more language. I went to Google Images and I put person crying, and then I got the boy crying. And I thought, okay, why is he crying? And then I found the other image. And I deliberately chose black and white images because somebody said that if you put a color image, the colors kind of take up some of our cognitive processing and you get more ideas from a black and white image. I don't know if that's true, but it sounded quite interesting. So I used black and white pictures, but Google Images are fantastic. I mean, it's a huge wealth of images. And I just type in something like, you know, man crying or whatever your topic is, and you'll come up with thousands of possible pictures.
Thank you. Another question on the topic. As you said, drama has been used as means of problem solving as well as venting. The topics we use might not appeal to everyone naturally, such as the spanking example we just went through. How do we deal with students who find the topic disturbing?
Yes, well, I wouldn't, yes. I mean, I wouldn't choose a topic that you think the learners might find disturbing. It might, I mean, again, I mean, I think with this kind of thing, it's always a good idea to get the learners to tell you the topic. So rather than saying, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, get the learners, there are some activities where you can say, okay, write down on a piece, for example, I have a special bag. I have a special bag, and it's the wishing bag. And if you write down a wish and on a piece of paper and put it in my bag, your wish will come true. So the learners always say, oh, I want a new bicycle, or and then you can look at these and you can see what topics the learners are interested in, and then choose a topic that they are interested in, or listen to them. What problems, you know, if you want to kind of do it as a problem solving, what problems do you have? What problems would you like to talk about? I think it's very important that the teacher doesn't get the learners talking about something that they don't want to talk about, and definitely avoid any topics that they might find disturbing, upsetting, particularly if it's personalized. You know, don't personalize it. That's why drama is useful, because it's not you, it's this other character who's having these problems. So yeah, I would avoid any topic that would be disturbing. And I also wouldn't choose topics. I would get the learners to say, we want to, and they might come up with a topic that you don't think is appropriate. And then you can decide, no, we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, choice of topic is something to think about, definitely.
Thank you. There's another question on the convergent and divergent thinking that you mentioned, and why we use the first one mostly in our classes. Could you just touch on a bit more on that?
Yes. Well, I think the reason we do convergent thinking a lot in the class is because course books and course materials produce that kind of activity. So it's a question and answer or a matching. And the reason why we don't use more divergent or creative thinking is because teachers are kind of worried about what will happen, because it's open. You don't know what the learners will say. And very often the teacher doesn't trust themselves or their learners to do it effectively. And it is a risk-taking activity. So yes, you avoid the risk by not doing it. However, if you take the risk, then yeah, you've got the two options. It could go completely wrong and be a disaster. That does happen. Or it can go really well and be really engaging, really dynamic and really creative. And that is really, really rewarding. So I think a lot of teachers play safe. But if you don't play safe and you do take risks, then you will get the rewards. Maybe not immediately, it might be hard work, but eventually it will be a more rewarding experience. So I think teachers are kind of sensible people, so they avoid risks if they can. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we've got just some time for a last question. How much L1 should we allow during preparation and delivery?
Oh, I can see the chat now. Yeah, I think that depends on the teacher. I think it's inevitable as well. I think there will be some L1, if the learners are excited and they're interested and they want to communicate their ideas, there will be some L1. And I think that's okay, as long as it's not all L1, in which case it's a... But I think what you can do is you can gradually, through techniques that we all have, such as praise, monitoring, getting learners to reflect on what they're doing, I think you can push them towards more target language use. But this is true of any activity that they do in pairs and groups. It's important to encourage them to use the target language. But personally, I don't mind them using L1 if they're on topic and they're focused on, so they're preparing a role play, for example. L1 is fine, as long as they do the actual role play in English. I don't think it matters if there's a bit of L1 in the preparation.
Thank you, Tom. So they were the questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a great webinar. We learned a lot about using drama activities and being creative. It gave us a lot of ideas. We could see that from the chat. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending and thank you for asking me.
Thank you. So now we have come to the end of day one of Cambridge Days 2021. Once again, I want to thank you all for attending our sessions today and hope you found them useful. Before we say goodbye, let me remind you again to register for tomorrow's session by Cambridge University Press. On the screen, you can see the QR code, which you can use to register, or there is the link, direct link for the registration page as well. We will be organizing more events for teachers, learners, and even parents in the future. So please follow us on our social media for news, updates, tips, resources, and much more. You'll see the two separate Facebook accounts here, one for Cambridge Assessment English and the other one for Cambridge University Press. Goodbye for now then. Have a good evening and see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.